I just completed NieR Automata, and I have to say, it is one of the greatest games I've ever played. I'm gonna talk a lot about how this game made me feel. I'm gonna get into a lot of spoilers. I'm gonna get into a lot of story beats, and I'm gonna get into my overall review of the game. I don't really know any other way to talk about this game. I really debated this over the last hour or so, eating my dinner, debating on how I wanted to talk to you guys about this, but I feel like I just need to leave it all in the open. So I'll say this before I get into spoiler territory. If you have not yet played this game, do yourself a favor, stop this video, and come back after you're done. If you feel you don't have enough time to beat it, or you feel like it's something you may want to play later, do yourself that favor and enjoy this game for all that it has to offer. It's definitely one of those games that hits you right in the gut. It's definitely one of those games that has a very, very unique ending, and it's definitely an experience I will not forget anytime soon. With that, I'm gonna jump into the spoilers of this video, so you have been warned. NieR Automata is a game that gives you a lot of premise, but then very rapidly takes it away from you. You find out about halfway through the game that everything you have been doing is essentially for nothing. That's right. The coveted humanity that you have been fighting time and time again to protect doesn't even exist and has been dead for many, many years. And as you start to really liquidate, and there's really no other way to put it, because let's face it, 2B is a killing machine. When you really start to liquidate all of these other robot groups, you really start to kind of get a sense for what you're doing is erasing people, and you are erasing societies, and you're erasing structures that other people put together. And this game really struggles with trying to explain to you what humanity is. And I don't mean humanity as in human beings. I mean humanity as in the beliefs and the thoughts that bring people together. And that is something that this game really succeeds at. And you don't even realize it's doing it until it kind of slaps you in the face. It does get into a lot of that kind of quirky Japanimation or that Japan RPG-esque stuff that may seem a little odd to Western audiences. I can definitely say that I am grateful for my roommate making me watch so much anime in college, because I kind of understand it, or at least it's not so foreign to me as maybe it would be to other people. But even despite all of that nonsense, there is a core value into this game, and there's a core set of takeaways I think that we can all get from it. I definitely had a few, and that's why I prefaced the beginning of this video by saying I wanted to give you some of my thoughts on the game. So I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I guess the best place to start is at the beginning. And it turns out the beginning is not so much of the beginning, because as I mentioned, these androids, which are fighting in order to save the human race, to clear the planet, to allow humans to come back from the moon to repopulate and take back Earth, those very humans have been dead for a very long time. And the androids, at least some of the smart ones, one of which you play as, Model 9S amongst others, quickly realizes this. And the androids actually create this false belief that the humans are real. And they reprogram themselves to believe that they are doing the right thing. It's what gives them purpose in this world. So think about that. That's very, very interesting. Think about a game you play. Think about anything in life. And that's what really makes this game so special to me, is it really makes you reflect on things outside of the game. But think about the fact that maybe what you think you're doing is not what you're supposed to be doing. What if you don't really have any purpose and direction? What if you are just kind of aimlessly wandering around, making problems for you to solve arbitrarily? That's where this game really starts to hit you right in the gut. And as you realize that not only have these androids kind of self-created this system for themselves, in which they can kind of thrive and fight and have a purpose to exist, you are doing so at the expense of other people in the world, in this case, the robot enemies, that are actually kind of doing the same thing. They're serving their evil alien masters, who are in turn long gone as well. they have actually begun to form societies of their own, whether it be in the kingdom or whether it be, well, there's a lot of them to pick from, really. It doesn't even matter. Pascal would be a good one. You see all of these different sects. Some of them are religious. Some of them are based on a thought or a hope that some sort of Messiah figure will come along and save them, or that they're trying to be pacified. They're trying to be pacifist and not attack, like Pascal's camp, for example. And in order to serve your own purpose as a player in this game, as an Android machine, whether it be 2B or 9S or later on A2, your purpose is to self-fulfill that lie you've told yourself, unbeknownst, by taking away other people's futures. You're going into these camps and you're liquidating everything. You are killing everybody. And that is a really cool way to kind of get you to reflect as a player. I really like that concept, and it reminds me a lot of my absolute favorite game of all time, Shadow of the Colossus, where you know what you're doing is wrong, but you do it because the game demands it of you. But you don't want to do it, but you do want to do it. And it creates this crisis of conscience. And this game does that a lot. Really kind of on the nose a little bit, kind of in the mid-act, particularly as 9S really starts to learn about what's going on. And later on, even when you realize that 2B has actually killed 9S so many times that she's distanced herself from him, and that her whole purpose was actually not to be a battle machine, but it was to track down and kill 9S when he inevitably becomes too smart for his own good and he's about to blow the lid on everything. That is a very, very intense feeling, I think, and the finality of everything, that in reality it's a loop, and that you're not gonna break the cycle. And even though 9S, the current 9S you played as through the end of the game, whether you chose the ending or not for him to fight A2, whether you played as either of those two androids, the finality of that decision that he makes and basically building this arc, or at least launching the arc, taking all of their memories and shooting them far away to just kind of reset everything, maybe get a clean start somewhere a million miles away, knowing that he's gonna die and then be resurrected again, and they're gonna rise again, and this is gonna continue again as it has gone on for 8,000 years, is very, very intense. It's a very, very interesting game. One of the really cool mechanics about this game, actually two that I want to talk about, is the game's ability to constantly suck you in as a human being player, and how they do that in two very cool mechanics. The first is the upgrade system, in which you get these modular chips that you put into your body that augment your different skills, allow you to attack faster or run faster, things like that. But as you start to dive into the interface of your character, you realize that there are a lot of core functionality that is inherent to you playing as this android. So things like jumping, things like a mini-map, an item screen, a damage indicator. Those sorts of things can actually be removed from your Android and instead augmented with brand new chips that allow you to be stronger or more lethal. It takes information away from you, the player, the human being holding that controller in your hands, and instead you are giving part of yourself, in a sense, to the character to allow them to continue. Which is very, very interesting, again, when you take that premise that what you know you're doing is wrong, and killing and fighting and murdering thousands of robots is not the right thing to do. And yet you still do it, yet you still give yourself to that system. It's just such an amazing story, really, on human culture and just, your belief system, your morality. It's very, very interesting. The second one by far, and the one that was most intense to me, was the amount of bodies that are littered throughout the game. Now, I had always assumed going into it that all of those bodies were actually people who died that were, around you, kind of like an instance thing. We've seen this a lot with Death Stranding or World of Warcraft, where they kind of like take a small group of players and they put them in an instance and you kind of play within your own little sandbox. When you die, your character's body remains. They download your information to a new memory, or new Android rather, and you continue on your progress. You could always go back to your old body and recover a lot of your loot. This adds a great gameplay mechanic a la Dark Souls. If you die again, you lose your stuff, and that could be detrimental to your personal sanity, which I can tell you, I didn't break any controllers this time, but darn it, is it frustrating when you lose some really cool perks that you spent a lot of time and a lot of money upgrading. I digress on that point. The point I do want to make is all those other bodies littered in the game. They are actually other players who have beaten the game. And they are other players who have willingly given up their progress to help you. Yet another layer of mental, screwery. I want to use a bad word here, but I don't want YouTube to filter this video. It starts with an F. I think you can figure it out. What a weird concept that this entire time you have been basically building your progress and absorbing the energy of those who willingly give themselves to you to continue on for one ultimate price, their save file. That's right, when you beat the game, and you actually play as both endings with 9S and with A2. The pods, your ever-loving companions, discuss the idea of purging all data. And to purge all data, in another very clever nod, you actually shoot all of the creator development credits with a little gun, very similar to the hacking system. And as you're shooting them and blowing them up, it gets harder and harder and harder until eventually other players will help you. And they'll say, Joe Blow has joined the fight. Susie Q has joined the fight. And before you know it, your one little ship is like 10 or 15 ships. And now you're shooting these giant lasers and you're blowing through the rest of the game pretty much with ease. When you get to the very end, that's when the pod asks you and says, now that you've experienced this, was it worth it? Do you feel like you've accomplished something? Well, me personally, yes, I have. It's another game in my backlog. It's a great Japanese RPG game that really made me think and it really made me ponder. And I did enjoy the experience. And I think I'm a better gamer for it, number one. Number two, I really enjoyed the challenge and I enjoyed the story. And I really did find myself connected to all of these players in very different ways. And I wanted to see them do the best that they could, given the limited circumstances that they had, and really given the fact that they had kind of built themselves into a no-win situation. When you get to the end, though, the game asks you, for the sake of your save file, all of your save files, do you want to give yourself to somebody else? In other words, you will appear in someone else's game. You will be there to help them in the end credits. You will be there in that boss fight. Your corpse will be there. They can leech off you to get their energy back, to take your hard-earned mod ships, to then continue the fight. Do you willingly give yourself to them? And I said yes. I'm done with the game. I'm not going to go back and play it, so that was partially one of the other reasons. But it was a very selfless act to do, and really, if you think about how much you take from this game, and I don't just mean like, your personal experience and like how I'm going to feel about it in a week, but I mean just in the fact that like you're playing as a character who's just really burning and raising and destroying very, very innocent aliens and some robots definitely, who just want to be left alone, and you're harvesting them for experience. You're taking so much. It's nice to give back, and the best way to give back, besides my time, my praise for this game via a YouTube video and telling all of my friends about it at work, is this selfless act of giving all my save file back. It's gone. And I went and checked, and no kidding, it is gone. It is deleted. If I want to play this game again, I have to start from the beginning, the very first playthrough, all of my weapons, all of the lore, all of the side quests, all of everything that I've worked to collect over the 30 or so hours it took me to complete this experience is gone. It was taken from me. Or was it not so much taken from me, is that it was giving it on to the next player and paying it forward. And that is a very, very interesting way to end a game that really makes you think a lot about gaming in general. This is definitely one of the most immersive games I've ever played, although it cannot ever beat, I don't think anything can, honestly, my undying love for Shadow of the Colossus. I can definitively tell you this is definitely on par with that. I don't rate games anymore, but this is an absolute must play of a game, and it was definitely one of those experiences that left me thinking and searching out more YouTube videos and wanting to talk to other players who have beaten it to get their thoughts on it. But a game like this doesn't come by very often, so I really wanted to endorse it and do a love letter to this game in a very different style review, and I hope I've done that here for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.